Ahead on Tech Drive today, Gerald Jordan, Deputy Athletic Director for Competitive Excellence. He'll speak to Tech's transformative approach into the future, which includes details on the transition to the Sun Belt and the facility's facelift that is at stake, and two, how he leans into his old soul identity that helps to make him who he is. We'll split the G next on Tech Drive. As Gerald Jordan and I sit down in the Ivy Suite here atop the tower at Joe IA Stadium, Gerald, I am reminded it was exactly 1 year ago that we first met. All right, as he was among a committee that interviewed me to become the voice of the Bulldogs and director of broadcasting. I can't believe it's been a year. This isn't about me, but this goes to show you how quickly time flies.
Yeah.
And I know in your world, this is certainly the case. It feels like there's never enough hours in a single day.
Yeah, it goes by real quick. I mean, I didn't know that of you hit your year anniversary in essence today from the interview standpoint. And we were talking about, we've been, this upcoming football season, we'll be in the suites. This will be our 10th season. I mean, we've just eclipsed a decade, in this building. And it's, I mean, when you look at it in terms of a decade, I mean, it puts time in a little bit different perspective.
No, there's no question. G, as he's affectionately referred to by some, he's the Deputy AD at Tech for Competitive Excellence. And you're also the sport administrator for Bulldog football and baseball and overseas sports medicine, sports performance. We'll get into all that, but you're also the facilities guru. We actually had some fire alarm testing before we even hit record, a little peek behind the curtain here. So fortunately, I had the facilities guy with me to make a phone call and say, hey, can we press pause on that? You're running the lead on all capital projects as well, and there's a pretty big one that continues to come to life in the north end zone. What can you share with us in terms of an update about the Origin Bank Center for Student Athlete Success?
Yeah, it's on target. We're looking at a early fall opening of getting in there. It's still a little premature to nail down an exact date, but we're looking sometime September, October-ish, as far as being able to have everything signed off, get in the building, occupy it, and things like that. So it's exciting to see that, to come to fruition. I mean, there was a grass field out there and a really old video board a couple years ago, and to see what that is now and what it was, 4 years ago before Champions Plaza was constructed, in the video board in the Academic Center. It's pretty rewarding personally. Yeah,
I was going to use that exact word. It's got to be a rewarding moment of gazing at all the work and getting kind of a different view, right, too, from the north end zone towards the south. You're looking at the Davison Athletic Center and surveying the scene, the new sight lines that it presents, and it truly illustrates, I think, all the work, all the modernization, the innovation that has been at play, here in recent years, and to a sign of what, must continue to happen here into the future.
Yeah, you look at the football stadium complex, and in 2014, which was not that long ago, there was no Davison Athletic Complex, there was no Joe IA football stadium suites and press level, and there was no Origin Bank Center for Student Athlete Success. And to, looking at that in those buckets and the square footage that was added and the buildings that were added is really a tribute to all of our work from a fundraising standpoint, all of our donors, the monies that have contributed. Obviously, there was some state money in the Origin Bank Center for Student Athlete Success, Origin Bank being the lead gift on that from a naming standpoint, and just how generous, our friends of our university, alumni, donors, et cetera, are. Without them, we would not be able to be sitting in here today. So just the lift that they've undertaken and the generosity that they've had over this decade plus a couple years to enhance the football stadium is really unreal if you think about it. I mean, those three buildings, that the third one being completed, the video board, Champions Plaza, the new turf. We have new lights that came with the press box. I mean, there's been a large volume of upgrades in this footprint.
And I hope the beauty of podcasting and radio, and of course there's the product on the YouTube channel that folks can watch, but hopefully our mics are picking up some of the equipment out in the north end.
Yeah.
So you can hear it, right? The
Yeah.
heavy machinery, moving dirt, continue to work on the student athlete center. And it really is super cool that, like, as you and I speak, we know that's continuing to come, more and more to life. Are you going to don a hard hat and go over there and take a gander at all today?
I may have to do that. I haven't been over there in probably a week, 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
actually tomorrow I've got to give somebody a tour. So I may save that for tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep. It's exciting.
What consumes most of your day at this point in the calendar as we have reached June?
Really just auditing our facilities, what needs to be done, what small work orders are hanging out there, what big work orders are hanging out there, what do we need to do to make sure our facilities are buttoned up, and what do we need to do to enhance things for the 26-27 athletic calendar. It really never stops. We stop. There's a period of time that we don't practice and we don't play, and the venues are not being used from a fan standpoint. They're always being used. Ironically, as we're sitting up here taping a podcast, there's probably something up here in the stadium suites, I dare say 150 days a year or more than that. So, I think that's important to tell too. It's not this grandiose building that's just used 6 times a year. There's some other touch point that's going on in here. So really right now just focusing on the facilities aspect. The biggest thing that we have, most exciting thing, is our transition to the Sun Belt Conference and updating those logos in the venue. You'll see a new look basketball court as far as the Sun Belt logo here in a couple weeks. That'll be the first one to go down. That's just our maintenance window as far as those first couple of weeks of June. So that tied in perfectly. We'll be updating baseball, softball, soccer, the football stadium. The turf at the football stadium will actually be later this summer. That's our maintenance window for that, as far as grooming and any updates that we need to have as far as the Sunbelt logo and then the Origin Bank Field logo. This past year, the conference affiliation and the Origin Bank medallion logo were painted in. Long story behind that as far as just the technicalities and the time that we ordered the turf, things like that. So we will be stitching that logo in permanently at the end of the summer, and then we'll be done with that transition in all of our public-facing venues. So certainly exciting. I mean, that's part of what we do, but just that Sunbelt transition, being a Ruston resident and Lincoln Parish resident for a little over a decade, our whole community is moving to the Sun Belt. Ryan has said that multiple times, the impact. I don't even know that we fully realize it yet until you start seeing, you see numbers on a spreadsheet, you see the economic impact, but when you physically see people in the stands and you see people in, whether from Jonesboro, Arkansas, or Hattiesburg, or wherever, from a community standpoint, we'd like them to turn Ruston into a little weekend destination, instead of coming
Sure.
for a day trip for a football game. Come stay Friday night or stay, Saturday night and enjoy everything that's good in the community, because there's a lot to see.
No, that's a great way of phrasing it. And yeah, this summer is different than any summer you've ever experienced here at Tech since arriving in 2015. And for really most folks, the fact that the conference transition is taking form, and obviously you have a major role in that. But the fact that it's not Louisiana Tech moving into the Sun Belt, it's a community thing. Like I love the way that's phrased. And yeah, things are already at play. There's a lot to unpack from what you just said. I want to pull on the football part of it, going back to when that turf was laid down, because you and your protege Wyatt had a long night, right, prior to that August 30th opener, trying to make sure the paint would stick.
We had Wyatt and I bonded for quite a while on the turf. I mean, it was new to us and new paint, and it was weird. The paint was not adhering to the turf, and there was no issue with the turf. It was just, it was different, and it rained, and the temperatures were unseasonably cool, so it cured, but not all the way. And then we had this, moisture in the air, and it uncured, if you will. I know there's a better term from that. So we had our good friends at Turge's Rentals helped us out with some tents, and we covered the logos at night, and Wyatt and I were literally under there dealing with the logos and touching it up and things like that, because it's important for us for our university brand, our corporate brand, that we have to open that that venue. So not a lot of eyes that saw that, but that was, I think we finished about 1 that morning or something, Saturday morning. I feel like maybe 2. I can't remember. Yeah. It was late, and then we came back early that next morning, and it was literally constantly working on it until the teams came out on the field. But
right.
That's what life is like behind the curtain a little bit. But that's how important those things are to our areas. You're gonna go till you can't.
Yeah, I was in the office late that night gearing up for what would be my football debut, and I remember coming into the press box at like midnight and seeing y'all out there or just rummaging around like under the tents, and we're taking turns, kind of like a tag team match, tagging each other in. So you bring up the basketball court. That was one specific question I had, with signage. So how does that work? The maintenance window is here in early June, so things will change. But is this just like a sanding down of that logo inside the free throw line? We're not like pulling up all the hardwood.
No. Every year, well, actually twice a year, we the process is called a screen and recoat. So our flooring company comes in and basically kind of scratches the surface on the court. And it takes all the dirt, grime, et cetera, away, and then they put a new water-based clear coat over it. They do that in December, then they do that in June too. Okay. We try to extend the life of the court by not sanding it all the way down to bare wood until it's absolutely necessary. With this conference transition, we'll do that simple screen and recoat. They'll come in essence, paint over our existing conference mark, and actually the whole lane will be blue now. Okay. And then they'll paint the lane blue, let that dry, come back in, put the Sunbelt logo there at the free throw stripe, and then they'll clear coat that. So that's the subtle little difference that everybody will see. The rest of the court stays the same. That lane will be blue, and the Sunbelt logo will be over top of that.
Okay, yeah, so it'll pop. Blue lane with the logo.
It'll look really good. Yeah, it'll look really, really, really good. We went back and forth on some different iterations and what that could look like and what we envisioned it, and really landed on a full blue lane would be best for the brand and Sunbelt's brand, and it'll look really good. I think everybody will be pleased. Yeah,
that's really interesting to see the finished product there. The auditing process, is it as simple as, this is your expertise, right? Mm-hmm. This is what you do. But does it sound as simple as, you're just creating a chart, a laundry list, walking all the facilities, just tabulating everything that has the old league affiliation signage, and you might already have a lot of this done, right? But you're doing checks and balances and making sure, every stone is unturned, whether you're walking the perimeters of the venues, the team rooms, locker rooms, clubhouses. You're combing through all the grounds, right? The underbellies, and I'm sure you're turning over couch cushions, even for, what to remove and how to replace that particular signage or element.
Yeah. You look at the athletic competition venues first, the fields, baseball, softball, soccer, the football stadium, the basketball court, obviously those large public-facing, in the eye venues. Then you come back into the public spaces as far as the lobbies of the buildings and things like that that needs to be replaced. And then you scale back to that tertiary level of the subtle marks and locker rooms and things like that. We can't remove our history. We have over a decade of affiliation with our old conference, and there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of history that's up in graphics and photos. Even the one behind you, that's just a very cool image here, a home game here in the football stadium. So that's kind of how we take that primary, secondary, and tertiary as far as replacing things. From the tertiary things. Things do become dated, so as you update those, you'll be able to update those with fresh things. Obviously, we don't have any competitions that have occurred in the Sun Belt yet, but we will, and we'll have a lot of photos and things to pull from as we update those tertiary marks.
Locations. Where do all these CUSA signs that are removable? Where do they all go?
I mean, to be honest, the court is sanded down, so
Right.
it gets painted over. The Origin Bank Field, Joe A. Stadium, that was paint, so that's kind of washed away
Sure.
and is removed. Everywhere else,
I'm thinking of some of the flat,
like
it didn't take long for the flags to turn over on campus when
Yeah.
I arrived last summer. That was one of the first moves.
Yeah, those were flipped on the light poles, so that's kind of already done. From that standpoint, the Diamond Sports are decals on the wall.
Yeah.
So those come off. Excuse me, decals on the padding, new decals will go up. Same thing with soccer. So then the other public-facing venues, and the big one is out here in the Chris Richardson Suite. There's a mark here in the east and west lobby at the Davidson Athletic Complex. There's some stretch frame banners that we have to replace, and those are, quite honestly, in the grand scheme of things, are not very expensive. When you design the facilities and the graphics and the branding, especially baseball, softball, soccer, and in the academic center, you really have to. The intent is to make things as evergreen as possible, and if there's anything in there that can change, whether that's conference affiliation or apparel branding being the two biggest ones, those need to be thought of highly as far as when you're picking what image you're wanting to put up and what material you're using to display that, so it can be changed. You don't want to get yourself into a situation where this graphic and this image looks really cool on the wall, but then it becomes dated, or the conference affiliation changes, or the apparel changes, and you have to basically tear the whole wall down.
Yeah.
So we really try to be intentional about the materials that we select, and then where things go, and the photo angle and things like that. Even player faces. You don't want to get too dated. Like I said, you gotta have some historical significance, but you got to be careful to not date yourself too.
Sure.
To be able to keep the venues fresh and looking good and updated for the public and for the student athletes too.
Yeah, no, I love the nitty-gritty of all that, and hopefully our listeners, viewers appreciate some of that too. I don't know if you've been asked this much about these sorts of things, so it's a cool peek behind the curtain. One way to gear up for the Sun Belt transition is to go to Patton's downtown, Patton's Western Wear. Whether you're going out of town or getting ready for the big game, look your best at Patton's Western Wear and Patton's downtown, the North Louisiana tradition since 2007. Sadie helped hook me up with a thin black, says LaTeX Bulldogs athletic hoodie. Wore that this morning. You can certainly outfit yourself with that and so much more. Hundreds uniquely designed lady texture and Bulldog apparel is there for you. And Gerald, Sadie, I was having a conversation with her the other day. She was very complimentary of you. We got the news that our beloved Kane McGuire is going to be moving on. So a hat tip to Kane as he and his family prepare to go to Tallahassee. Our sports information director has been along in a Rustonite for so long, but Sadie was reflecting, and she's like, Gerald's like the one main major influence who remains from when I started school in 2019.
Yeah, kudos to Kane. He's a Tech alum, been here 14 years in his current role, primarily with men's basketball. So certainly congratulations to him, his family, and their boys on that move. But yeah, we kind of look at the seniority or tenure here, not necessarily seniority, but Mary Kay is the anchor piece, and Ed, and with Kane's departure, I move up to third on the tenure here. So that's hard to believe too. Like I said, the time just goes by so quick.
Well, let's get into some of your history now, and we're talking about signage and artifacts. You're a big antique guy. I mean, are you stashing any of these the actual CUSA items at all, or no?
Probably not.
Okay,
probably
all right.
not.
Just making sure. I know you're the sign guy in many ways. I pulled up my notes I had for you from a year ago when we spoke, because I created this FBI hit list when I was preparing for my long day of really 2 days of interviews when I was here in Ruston, and I listened to a podcast with you and Teddy, which I think was probably 18 months ago, and I literally wrote down, as I pulled up your notes, Old Soul, and I think I got this directly from the pod, that Teddy said that you have a, quote, deeper appreciation for the past, simpler times.
Yeah.
A Mountain City, Tennessee native, where does your love for antiquing come from?
You know, I grew up in a Mayberry-esque town. I didn't realize that at the time. I mean, that was, you know, I grew up in the 80s in a small town population, 2,500. My dad's the mayor now, so you know that's neat for me. But
okay, I thought that was fake news.
No,
when I was Google
no.
searching, when I was looking this up
last
night, I'm like, is that his dad?
It is. Okay. It is. So big distinguished role that he has. But it's neat for me as a son to see. You know, we've lived there. My dad's lived there. I haven't, but his entire life except for 3 years when we lived in North Carolina. When my dad got transferred in the textile industry. But it's neat to see, you know, any elected governmental employee, regardless of the municipality, is not for the faint of heart. So he wears some of that, some of the challenges that they have, but the passion that he has for my hometown. His hometown is unmatched. And like I said, it was a neat time growing up. Like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, but I could ride my bike to town. I could go to the Western Auto Store. I could go to the Dairy Barn and get an ice cream cone. The Dooley's Speed Shop. My grandfather worked at Tri-State Farmers Co-op for 51 years, and that was right down from my house. And I mean, I idolized my grandfather. Like he was everything, you know. Just he was kind of the man's man, and worked there. Didn't have a high school education. He had to quit to help raise money for his family and work and things like that. And drove a truck and worked there. But he was, you know, everybody knew SD in our community and still do. You know, that obviously that's changed. He passed away 25 years ago now, but it's neat. Like I said, I got to grow up in Mayberry, and I think that upbringing as time went on helped me to have a better appreciation for the past and simpler times and being an old soul, because I love the story behind stuff, you know, as much as an object, you know, that's tangible. That's going to disappear. You can leave it outside and moss, rust, etc. is going to destroy it. But it is neat to find things, and we enjoy it. Something Samantha and I can do together. We have a booth at Vintage 167 just south of town, a booth in the antique store. So we enjoy doing things like that. I have, you know, really good friend in Minden that we junk together from time to time. But I love being able to connect the dots and find things for people. And I bought this clock, ice cream clock, months ago, and kind of stuck it back in the corner and didn't think much of it. Pulled it back out a couple days ago and looking at it, trying to clean it up, and it was Home, HOME -R made ice cream. Couldn't find anything on it, and I'm like, this has got to be from Homer, you know, Claiborne Parish, like has to have some connection. And I was trying to chase it, reached out to Wesley Harris, and he said, oh my gosh, he said, it is, here's blah 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 and blah. And I think that's neat, you know, that tells a story of a business that's, you know, bygone era. I love finding Ruston and Louisiana Tech stuff. Have things from the old Louisiana Tech dairy. That's cool. But it's neat. I think it's a little bit of the atypical hobby in athletics, but that's me. I'm a little atypical. So
no, that's
okay.
That's amazing. And that, you know, understanding or wanting to gain a better understanding of the past or the story behind certain items, you know, I hadn't thought too deeply about that, and you're absolutely right. Like that's really cool. And I understand the Mayberry reference totally, just because I came from Winston-Salem, which is just south of Mount Airy, and Andy Griffin Show and all of that. You know, like that whole sort of area. And Boone, North Carolina is the closest, I guess, right to where Mountain City
30
is.
minutes.
Yeah. So that's a future Sunbelt destination for us. That'll be a lot of fun for both of us when we get to go back out.
No doubt. Go back to home a little bit.
Yeah, that way. And Tobacco Row. And I know you have an affinity, at least you maybe did one chapter of your life, like motorsports. Teddy told me you have a show-stopping pit crew Halloween costume. Is that right?
I do. For some reason, I kind of got into the Halloween thing, and not the kind of gore of Halloween, but it's like an opportunity to make fun of yourself and get a laugh for people. So I do. I have a Frank Stoddard costume. So it's a real person. He was a crew chief for Jeff Burton and the number 99 Roush Ford Sitco Taurus, and just so happens we're the same size.
Yeah.
So I bought it online somewhere. I've had it for a long time, but yeah, I'll pull that out for Halloween every once in a while, and I'll take on my Frank persona.
Yeah. There's some good fiddlers that come out of that area too, right?
Yeah, I was talking to John Allen. Like, this is where the connection. I love to, to connect dots. So John and I were talking. Obviously, we've known each other for a while here, and one of our great friends of the department and the university. But he loves all types of music, and we were talking about bluegrass music one day, and I said, my uncle Kenny Price plays anything with a string instrument. He's so talented. So talented. I wish I would have been able to pick up on something, but I said, his dad was Fred Price, and John said, your uncle's dad was fiddling Fred Price? And I said, yeah, he was. And like that kind of warmed my heart, and it called my aunt and told her that, Mr. Price has been long passed away quite a few number of years, but then Cody Norris is a new name in the bluegrass circuit, and he's from Mountain City. He has his own show, the Cody Norris Show, and I mean, John was talking about Cody Norris, and I said, "Oh yeah, I know him. He's from my hometown." He said, "What?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, he lives in Mountain City. This, that, and the other." And so I got my dad to get a Cody Norris Show T-shirt, and got Cody to autograph a picture and put it in John's suite. So he was all excited about that.
That's sweet. That's really cool. We got maybe 5 minutes left, if that. So we're gonna try and accelerate through a couple of the remaining high points. And one of the things about your journey that's so unique is you started in sports medicine as a trainer. So 11 years ago, you arrived here in Ruston, 2015, via Delta State University, where you were for 12 years, working your way up from assistant athletic trainer to senior associate athletic director for health sports performance. You came here to head up the sports medicine department here at Louisiana Tech. It's a track record that includes an undergrad degree at East Tennessee State, a master's from Penn State, and a grad assistant athletic trainer stop at the Citadel. So the jump from sports medicine to deputy AD at an FBS institution is really, as dramatic of a labeling that I can put on this. Fueling capital projects and having so much else under your thumb. How and why?
Some of that, actually, we're talking about that before we started, and I failed to mention some of that started back in high school. My first career aspiration was to be a sports turf grass specialist and groundskeeper. Like, we loved the Braves. I was in Tennessee, so we'd go to a Braves game, and I want to watch the field crew get out there and work. So did that, and then spilled off into architecture. Had a intro to drafting class in high school and loved that, and then somehow I got to sports medicine and athletic training, and I figured out that's what I wanted to do, but still loved to do those other things. And fast forward, going through college, Penn State, the Citadel, et cetera, you get to Delta State's Division II school, saying that this is not my job, is not an option there. Everybody's got to be all hands on deck. To make the brand grow and to do whatever. You got to do a lot of the same things with a lot of less people. I did the travel for football for a large portion of my time there, and picked that up to take that off the coaches. I had to mow the field a couple times. You just run into whatever, help pull the tarp on and off at baseball, and really whatever needs to be done. And I wasn't the only one doing that. Everybody was jumping in and doing whatever they need to. It was the beauty of Division II. You got your football coaches out there, handing out equipment, painting the lines, and could go back through some of those times of piling on 2 buses or vans, and having to keep your hand in a lot of different cookie jars enabled me to do what I'm doing now, from high school aspirations to Delta State. I got here, was head football athletic trainer, and Tommy McClellan, our athletic director at the time, knew that my passion was more towards administration and wanted to get there, and was at a point in time in my life too, was not married, didn't have a family at that time, but knew that's kind of hard to start, during those times of when you're entrenched in football and things like that, and had an opportunity. The tornado came through here in August of 2019. My predecessor, Adam McGirt, who's a good friend and colleague that's in the president's office, was in my position. He moved up to his current role to head that disaster recovery up and strategic initiatives at the time. And Tommy called and said, "Hey, you got 24 hours to make your mind up. Do you want this or not?" So I obviously said yes, and we're here today.
Yeah, really cool. Let's end it on this, because I can ask you some more inside baseball stuff on the sports administrator side. I mean, this is the guy that's responsible for weather-related changes, okay? So when there's a delay in start time and a storm never comes through, you blame him, okay?
Yeah.
You're sort of that main connection point, I think, of the sports administrators, those that are under Ryan Ivey's executive staff that might have a couple other, responsibilities, couple of sports they oversee, and you look at sports medicine, sports performance in addition to football and baseball. You're kind of like that immediate touch point, right? To kind of be there logistically, to be an ear for the coach to bend, and a variety of different issues. You also, you and your administrative team have just helped to extend our partnership here at Tech with Adidas. This is the Adidas guy also, this just illustrates again how much that you actually are involved in, and it takes a village though, right? Like, it's not just you, it's the entire team. But congrats to you and Tech on extending Adidas and the relationship with, is it Game One? Yeah, Game One, the largest team supplier distributor of Adidas out there. So if you can't tell already, I'm emptying the clip in the notebook, at least to give you enough shine. But the dismount item for you is, with all that in mind, as much as it takes and as much as is going on at Louisiana Tech, and the amount of responsibilities that fall not just under your hat and your purview, but everyone involved, from student athletes to fans, to the faculty, to the community members, to bring it full circle back to this community move into the Sun Belt. Ruston seems to be the driving force of it all, right? Like, Tech and its athletic presence wouldn't be who they are without the community. Lincoln Parish, tethered together. And because of that, too, I know you're deeply connected with the Visitors Bureau. You invited me there in the fall. I appreciate sitting in on that meeting. But why is that relationship so important between the university, its city, its parish, and continuing to move Tech into the future?
Yeah, I think it's the classic town and gown relationship. I've heard some people that have been here longer than I have phrased it. We used to have a university in a town. Now we're way more together than we have been in the past. And if something's good for the city of Ruston or Lincoln Parish, by and large part, it's going to be good for Louisiana Tech, and vice versa. The Sun Belt transition is the prime example of that, of just geographical proximity. Our fans, our opponents' fans, can get here easier, quicker. We can get there quicker. It's better for our student-athlete experience. There's going to be more people in the stands. Like, even for us, we're just going to be able to go to more away games, whether that's basketball or baseball or softball. You can get in a car and drive down there, So I don't know that we, even got to that point yet. But you talk about the finances and the attendance and the economic impact. I mean, it's just a good thing from a growth standpoint. Good for Ruston, good for Louisiana Tech, and vice versa.
It's beautiful, G. I wish we had more time to go deeper into some of these things, but Ruston has been good to you, your wife Samantha,
100%.
and your daughter.
Yep, 100%. Eva Grace is 19 months old now, as of last week, and I mean, whew, man, this time can go by quick, as you know. As you know, and being a girl dad of, I mean, there's no title. Like, it doesn't matter what other title you have from a professional standpoint. Being a dad, is awesome. So, I take her to school in the morning. I've got drop off duty, and but she's awesome.
Yeah. Well, as I got one more meeting after our conversation here, and then I'm getting in the car and driving to North Carolina.
I know
so
you're excited to get there. So
I will be able to get my.
road.
Thank you. I will be able to get my daughter to school Friday. She's got a 5th grade graduation tomorrow from the day we're recording. So yeah, we all need a little bit of time to recharge too this time of year. So. G, thank you so much. Gerald Jordan, Deputy AD for Competitive Excellence. I think the best way to phrase this pod is we split the G. How about that? Has anybody ever described it that way to you whenever they have a conversation? We split the G. You know, now we just need some Guinness. Thank you to Carson, Kavanaugh, GP, Jack, the whole cast of characters. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Kyle Shasberger, and we split the G with Gerald Jordan.